going on, everyone? Welcome here to the Pizza Buffet live on Forward Progress, part of the Hammer Betting Network, powered by Pinnacle Sportsbook. I'm Rob Pizzola. I'm here with you for the next hour, breaking down today's NFL sides and totals. Daylight savings came in clutch last night. Feeling energized, refreshed, off to a good start today. Never want to say anything is completely done, but who knew that getting Miami Dolphins close as favorites in this game. Favorites. Like better than Kansas City on neutral. Still a half to play. It's not done yet, but pretty sizable bet for me on the Chiefs today, which I'm happy with in the first half. Now, I'm going to try not to get too distracted with the Chiefs-Dolphins game, which is going to the half right now, and I'll keep this forward looking. First and foremost, I'm going to repeat this every week at this point. I don't have an edge at this time. It's very likely that you don't have an edge either. We have sports books across North America taking some pretty big bets on these games at this point. Pinnacle's taken $100K on sides, as are a few other shops. Do your best to get down earlier in the week, because right now, we're basically flipping coins. And I'm just being real with you here. I know there's other people that'll be doing content Sunday mornings, 11 a.m., talking about the locks that they have, why this is a good bet because of the public bet percentages and whatever. I'm telling you right now, we're all flipping coins. So while I do love doing this and breaking down the games and my thoughts, very important to get down earlier in the week. Follow our content here on Forward Progress over the course of the week. We do give out bets at other times. It's your best chance of getting closing line value and beating the NFL. I'm just saying it to be completely honest with everyone here. If you are betting today, that's fine. Do it for entertainment purposes. Bet responsibly. Last thing I'd ask before I get into everything here today on the card, if you're not subscribed on Forward Progress, smash that subscribe button down below. Set bell notifications. Like this stream today. Goes a long way to getting our content elevated on YouTube, other people finding it. And if I could ask one more thing from all the nails that are in the chat, and I see a lot of familiar ones right now. Jameel, Anthony, Glenn, Chosen Sports, Hunter 11. A lot of you guys, thank you for supporting every week on a weekly basis. Hit that share button down below and help some other people find the content. Whether you share to Twitter, wherever you want to, what your WhatsApp groups, Telegram chats, just help other people find the content. Because I woke up this morning, I logged on Twitter right away. I saw a million things that wanted like steam coming out of my ears. My head was about to explode because we're still at a phase where there's just a lack of education about sports betting in the space. Help people find this content, help them get educated so that they don't go down the wrong path in life. Clayton, you think we have friends? I hope everyone here has some sort of friends. All right. As a general reminder, I preach line shopping here on Forward Progress. It's one of the most critical aspects to sports betting. I'd never consider betting without Pinnacle being one of my sportsbook accounts because of their everyday competitive odds. Bet smart, bet Pinnacle, your trusted sportsbook for the past 25 years. And if you're going to sign up to Pinnacle, use code HAMMER, as it does support us here on Forward Progress. You must be 19 plus, not available in the US. And of course, please play responsibly. Now, you'll see, I'm not BSing you. A lot of times I'm going to pull up the odds on screen. I'm going to pull up the odds on screen for every single game here today. And when I do, you're going to notice that Pinnacle almost always has one of the best prices in market. Like very consistently, side, total, first half, whatever. So do yourself a favor. All this stuff adds up over time. If you're betting minus 105 instead of minus 110, it makes a large difference over time. Also, the easiest way to improve as a sports bettor, use multiple books. Get the best odds. I recommend using an odds comparison tool like betstamp. I'm a co-owner of betstamp. I believe in the product. It compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, player props, whatever you want to do. Save time and money. Check betstamp before you bet. Download the app today. All right, people. Let's get into it. Let's get a better view here. Give it a little quick refresh. 21-0 Chiefs at the half. Minus 1,100 on Penny. Okay, game number 1, Minnesota and Atlanta. Quickly, I'm going to pull myself back into full screen. Probably looking at the card right now, we're looking at maybe 3 or 4 plays for this week's card as it stands right now, and it looks like all sides may be a total. We'll see, but that's where we're at right now. And for those that don't know, I've talked to G-Stack already this morning. A little bit disappointed. Might not see him on Forward Progress tomorrow, as he might have to stay in bed for the entirety of Monday if this result continues. But he's going to be just fine. All right, let's get into it. Minnesota, Atlanta. Gave my thoughts a little bit earlier in the week on this on the Forward Progress Best Bets show on Wednesday. Entire market has settled at 3.5 right now. Total is anywhere between 37.5 or 38.5 on this game. So obviously the big news is Jaren Hall getting the start. 5th round quarterback out of BYU. A little underrated piece of news in this game. Grady Jarrett tore his ACL on the defensive line for the Atlanta Falcons. He goes on IR. Grady Jarrett, in my opinion, is a very underrated player. More people fixated on the quarterback position for Minnesota, as they should be. It's a big downgrade from Cousins to Hall, but Grady Jarrett's absence is important as well. Now, when I set lines on NFL games, talked about this before, but I have like a confidence rating that I attach to my number. So I'm going to set a number on every game for the most part, with the exception of a couple today, which I'll talk about. But then there's a confidence rating associated with that. I think Atlanta should be in the range of -3, -3.25, roughly in this game. However, my confidence rating on that is extremely low. At this point, if you didn't get the 4s earlier, again, this is a show it's not backwards looking. If I woke up today, I had no bet on Minnesota, would I bet the Vikings at +3.5 here? I would not. So we're going to pass on this number. But for those of you who are playing in pools, need to pick a side, I strongly lean to the Vikings here. I don't know what Jaren Hall is going to be. Full disclosure, I don't watch a ton of college football. I bet some college football. I can't get around to watching every game every Saturday. I never saw Jaren Hall play at BYU. I watched him in the preseason this year, where he was honestly fairly good. He's a mobile quarterback. He'll give you something with his legs that Kirk Cousins, another white quarterback, didn't give to you. I'm not talking about him like, he's going to light the world on fire like Michael Vick and 100-yard rushing, but there's a little bit of mobility there. There has been like this phenomenon in the NFL in recent years with these quarterbacks, young ones especially, that make their first start. And they fared really well in these first starts. And if we're going to make like some sort of hypothesis, put some logic into it, very possibly because of the fact that other teams don't have tape on them. They don't know what the game plan is going to be. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But as is pointed out in the chat here, we don't have an update yet, but Comet says Vikings left tackle Darisaw is questionable with a groin. He got downgraded yesterday to questionable. A lot of times that's a little bit iffy. Darisaw would be normally, in my opinion, like a 0.5-point loss, roughly there. However, when you have a rookie quarterback, I think that compounds it a little bit as well. So keep an eye on that if you're betting the game one way or another. But ultimately, more of this comes down to not trusting the Falcons to win by margin. Now, I think Taylor Heineke, is better than Desmond Ridder. However, Taylor Heineke's tendencies and what he's done career-wise against the blitz are very poor. Last year, he had the second highest turnover-worthy play rate in the entire league. Historically, through his career, success rate, EPA per play, they plummet when he's blitzed. This is important. Brian Flores, a very blitz-heavy defensive coordinator, he's turned around that team entirely. Drake London out. Well, that's a substantial drop-off. This is a thin wide receiver room as it stands. You're going to have Van Jefferson, Mac Hollins, and Kaderil Hodge. Like, this is... I can understand. There's lots of scenarios here where Jaren Hall just sucks and Atlanta wins by margin. But again, we're trying to think probabilistically in this game. And I don't think there's too many scenarios where Atlanta is winning this game in a blowout. So Vikings are nothing. I'm not going to play them at this number. I don't think it's a super valuable number anymore. But for those who just want to get down on a bunch of games, and by the way, Vikings taking a little bit more money right now at Pinnacle as well, then you can go down that path. All right, game number 2. Seahawks and Ravens. I'm going to have to do a lot of drinking here, coffee and water between games here as I got a bit of a sore throat, but we'll get through it today. Okay. Game number 2. This one's now out to 6.5. Total 44 at most books, some still 43.5. 44 a key number when it comes to totals. Usually if it comes off of that one way or another, pretty substantial money, amount of money that comes in, and that would be especially be the case on a Sunday morning. We have a very clear buy point for me in this game, which is Seattle +7. At this price, small lean to Seattle. I don't like the stylistic matchup for the Seahawks in this game. I've talked about that a bit this week, but we have come a long way on the Ravens. The Ravens are very good. Efficiency-wise, offensively, defensively, no problems there. But in the span of a couple weeks, Baltimore's gone from being a 3-point favorite at home to Detroit to now 6.5 to Seattle. Detroit's better than Seattle, but it's quite an adjustment over the course of the past couple weeks. Now, you do have to adjust because Baltimore blew out Detroit. Even though they didn't cover last week, they blew out Arizona. They're playing good football. Don't get me wrong. But we get to a point where I think maybe we've gone a little bit too far. Potentially at 7. Not potentially. 7 is a buy point. We're not going to get there. I doubt it, but you never know. I don't love the matchup for Seattle, but all this is incorporated into my number anyways. Lamar is very good against zone. He's especially good against cover 3. And Seattle plays zone at the highest rate in the entire league, 85%. They're a zone coverage team. When I say Lamar is good versus zone, he's 5th in the league in EPA against zone, 29th against man. It's very drastic. He's also 2nd best in the league in success rate against cover 3, which Seattle runs at the 4th highest rate in the entire league. Where Lamar has struggled badly, zone, man, Seattle doesn't do it, but also against the blitz this season, Lamar Jackson hasn't been good. 25th in EPA per play. Seattle blitzes at the 6th lowest rate in the league. So stylistically, I think Baltimore's offense matches up well. Now, they may struggle with the run concepts because Baltimore, outside of the Lamar Jackson designed runs or scrambles, they run a lot of inside zone. That's kind of their basic run They run a little bit of everything, but it's mostly inside zone. They don't really do it well, but they run it a lot. Seattle's defense against inside zone has a 26% success rate. They've been very good at preventing those inside runs this year. So there's maybe some hope for them. On the offensive side of the ball, Geno Smith, I mentioned this last week against Cleveland. I'll mention it again because he has very drastic splits against different types of defenses as well. He's been terrible against man, terrible against cover 1, which is basically like a man defense with a safety roaming over the middle of the field. Baltimore doesn't like overwhelmingly run man or cover 1, but they're top 10 in the league in both. So stylistic matchup, Baltimore, really good. But at some point you got to say, okay, this has come a little bit too far. And at this point, I feel like it's a little bit too far. So I've set targets for 7s. I don't think we're going to get there, but Seattle or nothing in the pool plays. Moving on. Arizona and Cleveland. I'm not going to spend much time on this game. Lots of money coming in on Cleveland as I woke up this morning. This is like one of what I'll call like the uncertainty bowls today. Clayton Tune, I don't know why. I have no idea. I asked about a half dozen different people their thoughts on Clayton Tune. I got a million different answers. Extremes one way or another. I don't hold out high hope for Clayton Tune. I don't. This is a very challenging, this is like one of the worst possible scenarios for a rookie quarterback. Starting on the road at Cleveland against this defensive line without a running game. James Conner, since he's been out and on IR, they've been terrible. That's been like a real problem for them. Backup DeMercado is out. Not that it makes a huge difference, but more so maybe the injuries on the O-line. Remember, Elijah Wilkinson's on IR. Now Tristan Colon, who's filling in for him at left guard, injured. It just becomes a matter of like, when does this price become too big? If I'm picking At 13 for pools, I'm taking Arizona because you also have the uncertainty with Deshaun Watson. But I just wonder whether or not the Browns are going to make the same mistake twice. Like we saw them rush Deshaun Watson back a few weeks ago. He looked horrendous. Arm strength, 0, non-existent in that game. And, what do you do in that type of situation? I don't know. I just pass in these types of games. Arizona for pool purposes. But I do think like the likelihood that we see a better Deshaun Watson today is high. For one, it's the Arizona defense. 2, they probably play to his strengths a lot more and throw underneath. I don't know why they're throwing downfield with him last time. And 3, the chances that he is healthier, in my opinion, are a little bit higher than that. A few questions in the chat, which I'll get to at any time. As a reminder, you can get in on the chat. It's pretty active on a Sunday morning here. You just have to be a subscriber here on Forward Progress for 5 minutes. We make it 5 minutes so that the bots don't get at us and that we don't get a bunch of trolls. But hit that subscribe button down below. Get in on the chat with everyone else. Anthony says, I have Baltimore -5.5 in a pool. Honestly, I'd probably just play Baltimore at that number. Sometimes, like that's, roughly where my number is on the game. But you also have to use the market as information as well. You also have to use the market as information. And it's important to do that, especially considering in a lot of pools, it's going to be an edge for you. Since I'm sure, if your friends are anything like my friends, they think that they're all Billy Walters and they don't even pay attention to the market, which is a real challenge. All right, let's get on here. Rams and Packers. Woke up to a bunch of Packers money. Definitely do not expect Matt Stafford to play at this point. If Stafford were, he's not playing. But Green Bay's a cover 3 team. Stafford has killed cover 3 this year. 2nd in EPA, 6th in success rate. Now, Brett Rippon. Couple things about Brett Rippon. So first and foremost, can the running game help Brett Rippon? Well, LA runs these man duo concepts a lot. Way more than any other run blocking scheme. So it's like double teams, get to the second level, man concepts, right? And they do that fairly well. They have a 45% success rate against doing that. Green Bay's defense is mediocre at defending that. So there's possibly an opportunity for them to run the ball in this game. It's just that Green Bay's probably going to sell out to stop the run and force Rippon to beat them. Now, I went back and looked at Brett Rippon's numbers over the course of his career. He's got a very small sample size. I've seen him play before. Stafford was just ruled out. Thank you very much. Cream Corn, thank you very much, Connor. And that's why we've probably seen a little bit of a final tick here towards Green Bay in the last minute. Let's give you a little quick refresh there. Yeah, -4, -105 from -4 plus 100. That's going to be enough to get me in on the LA Rams. We're going to play +4, -105 for $60. 63 to win 60. Oh, I guess the number's still moving in real time again. I'll lock it in, but this is roughly in the range of what I'd be willing to play. It's +4, -110. Well, we'll verify it at that. But either way, this is enough for me at this point. The 4 was key. And ultimately, Brett Rippon, his EPA per play and his success rate numbers are very drastic. 43% success rate, EPA per play, -0.135, very bad. So what that indicates is that he can consistently move the ball, but he struggled with turnovers. One thing, he holds the ball a long time. He takes sacks. That can happen, but is Green Bay the defense that is going to get that done? Quay Walker was a DNP Friday. He's nursing a groin injury. They traded Rasul Douglas. Eric Stokes is on IR. Darnell Savage is on IR. Rudy Ford didn't practice with a calf injury on Friday. It's a banged up defense as well. But most importantly, when you actually compare Rippon's numbers to Jordan Love, Rippon has a 43% career success rate. Jordan Love has a 40.6% success rate. CPOE, Rippin, negative 1.5. Jordan Love, negative 10.5. Like, Jordan Love is terrible right now. He can't complete the most basic of passes. And they're going to lay 4 points. Rams got super exposed by the Cowboys last week. I'm not out here to say the Rams are a good team by any stretch of the imagination. I know that this is like the quote unquote square side. We've seen the professional action mostly on Green Bay, early big money on Green Bay. But we're getting to the point now where it's kind of ridiculous. Like you're asking Green Bay now to with this offense to cover, win by margin. If you're wondering about the Green Bay running game, they run inside zone a ton. LA's defense, 31% success rate against inside zone. This is like the one running scheme that they've had a ton of success against. So ultimately, I'll pay for Jordan Love to beat me. There's uncertainty with Rippin for sure. He can be a complete garbage can today. At Lambeau, 4 turnovers. Like, that's within the realm of possibility. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, we got to take a stance and just be like, yeah, maybe this has gone a little bit too far type of situation. Moving on, Tampa Bay and Houston. I've seen a lot of mixed action on this game this week in like my inner circle of bettors, where there's been a lot of opposition one way or another, both on side and total. What's interesting to me about this game, as we see the market has settled in at a juice 2.5 for Houston, minus 115, total at 39.5, pushing 40. What's interesting about this game to me is that these teams are very similar to one another in the concepts that they run, how they call the game, plays that they run. Pretty similar. And when I say that, I'm talking about extremely inefficient in terms of play calling. Lots of early down running, force the quarterback to complete third downs and see what happens. Now, I pay a lot of attention to news over the course of the week. I'm not as in tune with like coaches quotes and player quotes like Adam Chernoff is or something like that, where maybe that's something that he might pick up an edge on. But I have seen both CJ Stroud and Bob Slowick this week. When I say seen, read comments from them in regards to their offense moving forwards. The one thing I know about Tampa is this is not going to change. We know this offense is going to be what it is because this was the offense last year when they had Tom Brady, right? I was complaining about Byron Leftwich. I'm like, oh, Byron Leftwich is a loser, horrible offensive coordinator. It was more so to do with Todd Bowles. This is what he wants to do. Establish the run, even if it doesn't work. And they just continuously do this over and over. They cannot run the ball. They're dead last in EPA. They're dead last in adjusted line yards running the ball. It puts a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield. And he was converting a lot of third downs early in the year. Now he's not. And now the offense is struggling. I don't think that's going to change. Houston, I have at least some optimism for them because Slowick has talked a little bit more publicly about throwing downfield a bit more on early downs. CJ Stroud talked a little bit about it publicly. He said the run game is important, but he kind of wants to be let loose a little bit more. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm a little bit more optimistic about Houston going forwards. Now, there's a lot of injuries. Houston, Juice Scruggs, their center, is already on IR. He's eligible to return, but he's not coming back yet. Jared Patterson, their backup center, he left last week with an ankle injury. It's a multi-week injury. Offensive line issues. Robert Woods is out. Damian Pierce is out. Defensively, I mean, Sheldon Rankins was 3 times limited practice. Derek Stingley still on IR. It's a beat up team, but I still am a little bit more optimistic about them going forwards. One thing stylistically, Tampa Bay blitzes at a very high rate, 37%. CJ Stroud this year, 6th best quarterback in the league, EPA wise against the blitz. I'm a little bit more optimistic about Houston. For pool purposes, I'm picking the Texans. I'm not betting the game. It does seem to me like these teams are very similar one way or another, but that's where I stand on this one. And we'll go from there. Okay. Washington and New England. Let's get that one up and running. So we've seen also a lot of mixed action on Washington and New England this week. All the early money pre-trade deadline on New England, a lot of that I think was anticipation that Washington would trade some players, be sellers, and that's exactly what they were. They ended up doing that. Line flew to 3.5. And then from there, we've seen just Washington money since then. Eric Eager on the Wednesday Best Bet show gave out Washington as his best bet at +3, +101. Very good closing line value here. I too lean Washington in the game. Kind of been priced out at this point. As much as we want to talk about the Washington defensive line, by the way, which it's going to be bad. You don't get rid of Chase Young and Montez Sweat. That's a lot of pressures. That's a lot of sacks. And have it not have an impact on the game. It's going to have an impact. You're throwing inexperienced players into starters roles, makes it a lot worse. But on the other side of the ball, I think we have to account for the fact that Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker are out for the Patriots. We talked about this with Drake London, right, with the Atlanta Falcons. But Kendrick Bourne tears his ACL. Devontae Parker's got a concussion. Look at that wide receiving core after these guys. Demario Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Reagor, Tyquan Thornton. I get it. The Washington defense is bad. There are lots of scenarios in which the Patriots can move the ball. But there's also a lot of scenarios where their offense is just stuck in the mud like it has been for the majority of the season. The times that Mac Jones has had the most success this year are against cover 3 defenses. He's killed cover 3 this year. 5th in success rate in the league. When you consider the Patriots offense as a whole and the fact that he's top 5 against a particular type of defense, that's great. Washington doesn't play cover 3 at all. It's like the 5th lowest rate in the entire league. So I don't know. I'm not as optimistic that New England's just going to be able to move the ball because of the issues on the Washington defensive line. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle here. They probably will have some success. They'll probably have some drives bogged down. Other side of things, it's talked about a lot. Bill Belichick against rookie quarterbacks. That's kind of been the MO for a long time. It's a very different defense now. It's no Matthew Judon, Marcus Jones, Christian Gonzalez on IR. It's just, I'm not saying they don't have talent. They have some talent on defense. It's not what I'm getting at. But it's not the defenses of the past that were dominant. This hasn't been a dominant defense in a while. They play a lot of man coverage. Sam Howell, just like Geno, drastic splits. Terrible versus zone, 10th in EPA per play in the league against man coverage. He has wide receivers that can win one-on-one on the outside. New England also blitzes at the 3rd highest rate in the league, 40%. Sam Howell, surprisingly good against the blitz. I don't think it's that bad a matchup for Washington. For pool plays, Washington. At -2.5, it's basically the same thing that we see in market right now. Now, granted, -2.5 is priced at like -115, so it's a little bit harder, but I make this game pretty close to 2.5. I do think Washington is a little bit more of a contrarian play. So we go from there. Random question. What percentage would you say are live bets of your weekly NFL action? Percentage of volume, maybe 15%. Percentage of money, less than 2%. Less than 2%. Okay, moving on. Bears and Saints. Oof. Pretty juiced number here at Penny, -127. So not coming off the 10 with the main market. I do only lock in plays against Pinnacle on this show. I am going to play this for $50 base, half unit. Any number on this board here is playable, in my opinion. It's ugly. I get it. And we'll use the verified number, -129, as it moves in real time. It's ugly. It's not a play on Chicago. It's a play, like a lot of games this week, against a team that I don't think is great, winning by margin. Now, there's a lot of things to talk about with Derek Carr specific to this game. One, he does have a very, very bad track record as a favorite, especially a big favorite. Now, I don't put a lot of stock into trends, but if we logically think about this, he's more of a conservative quarterback. So it makes sense that in these games where he's expected to win by big margin, he typically is not able to accomplish that. So for starters, let's start there. Second, Derek Carr against cover 2 this season. 28th EPA, 29th success rate. He's 13th overall in EPA against zone defenses, but cover 2 has given him problems. Not only in EPA because of like turnovers, but success rate. He's not been able to move the ball consistently. Chicago plays more cover 2 than any team in the NFL. Now, I'm not suggesting that just because one team plays one style of defense that, oh, it's over. You might as well just, New Orleans won't move the ball. Chicago has several injuries, right? Tremaine Edmonds in the linebacking core. Josh Blackwell's on an IR. Terrell Smith. Jaquan Brisker has the concussion this week. So I don't think this is a complete shutdown by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think that New Orleans is moving the ball at will. Like, think of where we've come in the span of 1 week, right? New Orleans is priced like the Chargers were priced last week. Don't know about you guys, but I'm taking the Chargers on a neutral against the Saints. We've come to a very different spot. Bagent, whatever. I mean, verdict's still out. Honestly, he had a horrible turnover last week against the Chargers. He wasn't terrible. This is not like a quarterback, in my opinion, that's the dredges of the league. He can make some successful throws. He had that Velus Jones wide open in the end zone where Jones just like tripped over his shoelaces, basically. I think the number's too high, honestly. And again, I'm not the guy that's like, oh, the look ahead number was this. We have to bet this because the number is very different. In fact, precursor to what I'm going to talk about this game at some point or another, where the look ahead was very different. However, the look ahead on this game was 5.5. Like, this is a drastic difference. Gone through 7, up to 10 in some spots. July look ahead was -2.5, as Top Sports Bettor said. Like, the chances that New Orleans is overrated in market, in my opinion, are very high. One thing that could be a factor that I have not factored in, but the Saints are dealing with flu. It's going through the locker room. I'm like, KC dealt with this last week. They lost. There's been teams before that have been dealing with the flu. It turns out to be nothing. I'm just pointing it out. It's just another possible thing that can work in our favor. So it was $50, guys. I'll actually lock it in right now just in case it didn't lock in properly. But $50. And it should be in now. All right, let's keep it moving. Next game, give a quick refresh to the main odds screen here. Ooh, Darisaw inactive. That's going to change things a little bit. That's a rough one, especially for a rookie. Okay. Into the 4:00 slate. 3 4:00 games today. I think a lot of people are going to be fixated on Cowboys Eagles, but there's 2 other ones. Colts Panthers. We're getting pretty close to me being interested in the Colts in this game. Again, this is like, I talk about this at the beginning of the show. Really, it does feel like I'm coin flipping at times here on Sunday mornings. And one of the reasons why is either I'm playing against heavy steam from respected betting groups, or I feel like the line hasn't moved enough with one game. This one, I bet Carolina last week. I used them my best bet on the Wednesday Best Bet show here on Forward Progress. And part of the reason was, Thomas Brown, new play caller, whatever. Carolina out of the bye week last week against the Texans defense. Okay, they win the game 15-13. They had 227 net yards of offense. They had 3.7 yards per play. This was the opportunity, in my opinion, to showcase the offense. Now, I get it. The Colts defense is bad. Zaire Franklin's not playing this week. Juju Brents is out again. Secondary's a disaster. Is Carolina going to be the team that takes advantage of this? I haven't seen it yet this year against anyone. They've gone against bad defenses. They went against the Dolphins defense. They scored 14 points early, and then they did nothing the rest of the game. Like, this has been consistent. So I'm now starting to doubt whether or not the play caller or anything can change this team. Bryce Young has been considerably worse against zone this year. He's 28th in the league against zone defenses, negative 0.16 EPA per play. Indy plays zone, second highest rate in the league. Indy doesn't blitz. They actually blitz at the lowest rate in the entire league. Bryce Young has been terrible against coverage. So there's an opportunity here. Maybe Carolina gets the run game going, puts him in better positions to succeed. But ultimately, I don't know about the Carolina offense. I'm more confident in Indy's offense on the road right now, even with like a makeshift right tackle. Braden Smith is out again. Issues for them at the tackle position. It's a problem against Brian Burns. Even then, I'm a little bit more confident in them. It's not quite at the range where I would play this. Needs to move a little bit more. For pool purposes, I'm picking the Colts. I'm just not buying into the hype. Can Bryce even see over the O-line? Yeah, I mean, it's just been a real challenge with Carolina this year. Before I get in the next game, do me a quick favor. It's 365 of you in here at once. Just smash that like button down below really quickly. Help get the likes up for the stream. If you're in here, it's probably because you appreciate the content. Least you can do is smash that like button down below. Help other people find the content in the future. Let's keep it going. Giants Raiders. I talked about two games this week. One was Arizona Cleveland, where I didn't really have a strong number on the game. Right now, I'm in the same boat with Las Vegas and the New York Giants. I honestly don't have an opinion. There's just too much uncertainty here for me to make a number with any degree of confidence. You have Daniel Jones returning from injury. Honestly, quarterbacks in their first game back from injury, especially when it's been a couple weeks of layoff, their success rates drop drastically. EPA drops. Pretty much every metric drops a lot. There is like some sort of rust factor, quote unquote. I do think the Giants will be able to run the ball. They haven't been able to run the ball consistently this year, but this is what the Las Vegas defense does. They kind of allow it. Again, I've talked about the Raiders defense a lot so far this year. They're going to play really soft. They're going to let you work your way down the field, and it's just a matter of whether or not you score in the red zone. Now, is that going to change with Antonio Pierce? I don't know. Former players as head coaches, my gut is that you get like an old school mentality from Pierce, especially with a rookie quarterback in Aiden O'Sullivan. Run the ball. Let's play tough guy football, whatever. I just don't know. I'm going to pick the Giants for pool purposes just because I think they're the better team. But God, I hate this game all around. I really hate it. Cowboys, Eagles. I'll call this another split opinion game. Did I call him O'Sullivan? Guys, this will not be the first or last time that I butcher someone's name here on the program. Aiden O'Sullivan is, if you guys want to know why that name is stuck in my head, if you remember back in the day when I used to do the Matchbook podcast, there used to be the host, Sully. That was Aiden O'Sullivan. That's why I always get O'Connell confused. Before I bring up the big screen, Cowboys, you wouldn't know it. I'm wearing a Bengals shirt. Well, everyone who watches every week knows it, but I'm a Cowboys fan. I'll talk about this game as impartially as I can. Market is -3, -108 at Pinnacle. Total briefly got up over 47 and has been bet down to 46.5. There's a split opinion game. A lot of people like Dallas. A lot of people like Philly. I've seen a lot of it. Tyron Smith expected to play, which is big. So basically, Dallas injury report is clean other than the guys who are on IR, Leighton Vander Esch, Trayvon Diggs. Philly's injury report, Cam Jurgens, I think, is still out again. Bradley Roby's out. But pretty healthy teams, I would say, from a pure week-to-week injury perspective. If you could find, there is not one in market right now. Just going to quickly look down here. -3, -105 on the Eagles would be a buy point for me. I know Dallas smoked the Rams last week. I'm first and foremost higher on the Eagles than I think everyone else is. From an efficiency perspective, like people keep talking about this offense like it's broken. It's definitely not broken. Like they're consistently moving the ball in a lot of games. Okay, a couple games against Washington that were close. But Eagles offense is not, yes, Jalen Hurts might be hurt. He's dealing with an injury, wore a brace for the second half of last week's game. I get it. But I think too many people are just comparing it to the offense last year that looked so seamless. And they're like, oh, Eagles are a broken team or whatever. And they're going to, I don't think so at all. I don't think that's reflected in the numbers at all. Dallas is a man coverage team. They play a high rate of man, fourth highest in the league. Jalen Hurts, 0.25 EPA per play against man this year. Why? He has receivers that can win, man versus man. Philly's big run concept, inside zone. You know what Dallas's defense does against inside zone? They give up a 56% success rate. They can't stop this. The Eagles O-line is going to have an edge in the running game here. I think Philadelphia is going to score, and then it's just a matter of, do you trust Dallas? It was one thing against the Rams last week, but how many times as a Cowboys fan, the pain that I've suffered watching this team step up in class, go out on the road, and just get crushed. And like, I don't know that this is all of a sudden just going to change. Hurts is overrated. I don't disagree with that. I think the average fan values Jalen Hurts a lot higher because of fantasy purposes and whatever. I don't disagree with that at all. It's not just about, the quarterback versus the quarterback. Dallas still tries to run this inside zone on offense as well. They have a 23% success rate on this. It's the most common run scheme for them. I don't know why they do this. What they're good at is these man duo blocking schemes. Philly's given up only a 25% success rate against that this year. I think you get a lot of third and longs, typically speaking. Until I see Dallas, like it's honestly reminding me a little bit of Miami right now. Game's not done yet, obviously. But you get these teams that step up in class and just continuously lose. And I think Dallas is in that frame right now. So Pinnacle not at the price that I need. Maybe a couple books out there that were mentioned that you can get a -3, -105, but that's the way I would play it. Okay. Buffalo, Cincy, Sunday Night Football. I'll be on air during Sunday Night Football, as I am every single week. It's not a live watch along of sorts. I'll have my eyes on the game in the background, but join me tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time here. It's me, Clive Bixby. We open Pinnacle up on screen as they open up odds for the next week. And we bet the games in the early going, or at least tell people how we think the lines are going to move. Good show. You'll get some good numbers. If you do enjoy that and you're into that, which why wouldn't you be? Check it out. Bengals -2 at Pinnacle. Total's been bet all the way up to 50.5. Just one-way action. For those who watched the stream last week, Forward Progress, 8 p.m. Eastern time, Sunday night. We talked about how that total was insanely low for Cincy and Buffalo at 47. It was. It's been bet all the way up now. Now you still got to win the bet, but you're holding a good number one way or another. I'm playing Cincy -2, -106 for a full unit. 106 to win 100. Another quote-unquote Square play, everyone overreacting to Cincy last week. Square, look ahead line was Buffalo favored. Now they're underdogs. I don't care. I came on last Sunday morning on Pizza Buffet. I made my point on Cincy, which was that we should probably just toss out everything prior to the bye week. I don't think it matters. When you have an elite quarterback playing injured for a bunch of games, why do we care about that? Why do we care? Elite quarterback, injured. Comes back one game. One of the most impressive performances you'll see. Just dominated the Eagles, the 49ers defense. Dominated them. If we go back to last year, there's a couple games between the Bengals and the Bengals and the Bills. One was stopped short because of DeMar Hamlin, obviously. In that game, Bengals offense was moving the ball really well. You go to the playoff game they played in Buffalo, strip out the possession where they're kneeling out the clock. Here were their drives: 79 yards, 72 yards, 14 yards, which was a punt, 65 yards, 44 yards, 75 yards, 61 yards before they were milking away clock in the fourth quarter. They moved the ball at will on this defense. Now this is a defense without Daquan Jones, Matt Milano, Trey White. There's just a lot. I think Cincinnati's going to move the ball effortlessly. Now, I have issues with the Bengals defense. I do. I think they can be exposed in some capacity. But if we look at stylistically, they play a lot of cover 3. Josh Allen has had big-time turnover problems against cover 3. Some of that will be luck because his success rate is actually really good against that defense. But he does tend to force a lot of throws. Ultimately, as these teams are right now, and with the matchups that I have, I think this number is short. So all aboard the Square train, whatever the public money is going to be on the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. I don't care. Monday Night Football. I'm going to lock in another play here on Monday Night Football, actually, which I very rarely do on this stream. But I played as my best bet the under in this game on Wednesday at 41. We've seen one-way action towards the under. I'm actually going to play the Jets as well for a standard unit. 109 to win 100 on Monday Night Football. I don't agree with this number. I'm not high on the Jets. I just do not agree with this number. When all is said and done, they do have the offensive line injuries. Connor McGovern at center goes on IR. The right guard, Wes Schweitzer, goes on IR. I get all of that. I do think they'll find success running the ball in this game. But ultimately, now we're asking the Chargers to go on the road, win by 4 against a very good defense who has played very good offenses at home this year, limited them to a lot lower than their season averages, whether that was Buffalo, KC, Philadelphia. Huge defensive performances in those games. And now you're going to ask the Chargers to do that with this wide receiving core. Without Mike Williams, without Josh Palmer, who's been ruled out with a groin injury as well. Basically, double team Keenan Allen, make Quentin Johnson, Darius Davis, Simi Fehoko beat you. Now, Darius Davis, good gadget player. Quentin Johnson has upside, but this is too much, in my opinion. Too much. So that's it. We're going to play that. Quick review of the picks for week 9. Just getting better numbers across the board here. Rams +4. I talked about this. If Jordan Love beats me by 5, sure, I can live with that. I can accept it. Bears +10, better number now, -117. Again, I mentioned this when I locked in the pick. I would have played pretty much any number on the board. Don't like laying that type of juice, typically speaking, especially not on a spread, but I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with here. Then Cincy for a full unit, Jets for a full unit. Other games that were somewhat close for me in terms of being played. Seattle in the 6.5 range, but I talked about the fact that I kind of really need a 7 in this game. It's just not going to appear, I don't think, at any point. Philadelphia at -3, -105. So would need to take a little bit more and I'd be interested in Philadelphia. And on Indy's like kind of far away as well, but pretty strong lean to Indianapolis in that game. From a totals perspective, we've seen the Baltimore-Seattle total get bet up a little bit. Small lean to the under there. Small lean to the under in Atlanta, Minnesota, especially now with Darrisaw out. But none of those are truly in range. I'll stick around for another 5 minutes or so. Cowboys, Philly, total thoughts. Honestly, just fine with it. Small lean to the over, I guess, like 46.8-ish or so. Small lean there. I'm not heavily invested in totals this week outside of the Jets under, which I really liked on Monday Night Football. Do I still like under 40? I technically do for a 0.31% edge, but it's not anything crazy either. So yeah, same thing for a non. Would you still play the under? I didn't lock it in because I wouldn't play it at this number, but it is an edge. So for those that don't understand, typically I need a threshold in order to make a bet. This is what separates like a lean from a bet, I guess you would say. And that's the situation there. What number do you need to pull the trigger on the Colts? That's a good question. -1.5 plus 100. -1.5 plus 100. Or the equivalent of that on a different spread. And a different spread. I think that's it for me this week. I think that's it. Throat survived, which is good. I didn't know that we were going to get through today. Okay, so just want to let me just clarify here. So didn't you guys love Falcons Vikings under 38 on the Sunday night show? I bet Colts under from the Sunday show still good. I kind of like it. What we do on Sunday nights is open the board and give our reactions in real time to what we think the market is going to do on these games, how it's going to move. It's not a sense of loving anything. I don't make a number on Sunday night. I don't make a number on Monday. I make better numbers on Tuesday morning. So it's my unbiased opinion of how I think games will move. For the most part, we do a pretty good job of beating numbers. There's going to be times where we don't, and that happens. But ultimately, that's what we'll do tonight, back here, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Once again, I'll remind you, if you haven't liked the content, just smash that like button on the way out. Top 3 survivor options. I hate doing it at week 9, Pat, because the survivor options for me are going to differ from the survivor options for you and from someone else, because it all depends on your pool. How many people are in your pool? How many people are left? What teams do they have left? Who do you think is going to be consensus picked and whatever? Like, obviously, Cleveland has like an 85% chance to win today. They're going to be extremely heavily owned. Do I think Cleveland's going to lose? No. Would I try to avoid Cleveland? Probably in some capacity. But it really depends on the pool altogether. Okay, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Steven, I know you asked about props. Apologies. Just got nothing going on that I think is worthwhile overall at this point. So don't want to give out stuff that I wouldn't bet myself, because at the end of the day, as soon as I say something, someone's going to go hit it. And really, there's just nothing that I think stands out as something that I love from a prop perspective this week. Appreciate everyone who tuned in here. Catch everyone back here, 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Probably be wearing this in support of a bet that I made this week. It's nice. Honestly, it's good gear. It's pretty solid, comfortable. A lot of good stuff going on here. This has been another edition of the Pizza Buffet here on Forward Progress, presented by Pinnacle Sportsbook. Everyone, good luck with your bets this week. Unless you're opposite me, then I can't wish you luck. And we'll catch everyone later on tonight. Peace.